course, today are the representatives of the athletic committee
Yes, ma'am.
being led by Mr. Randy Phillips
Yes, ma'am.
and also Ms. Denise DeRosa. You have the floor.
Well, first, we want to thank y'all for having us. But I want to give y'all an idea of what we did last year and what we're trying to accomplish now. We did 32 events in the state of Mississippi last year. This year, stretched our goal to trying to have 40. We're trying to get outside promoters back into the state of Mississippi. We've also started helping start boxing in the prisons, which is actually no cost.
You mind repeating that you started?
Boxing
Okay.
inside the prisons.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry. We actually held a fight at Parchman last year, the end of the year. Went fantastic, no problems whatsoever. So we're trying to get all the prisons to participate, which seems like they're coming on board. We'll be having fights there. We will be, they will have their own champions, with the belts. So that's gonna be real nice. Matter of fact, I'll meet with them again next week to set up another fight. And last year, I think I told y'all we was working on the website, which is actually up and running, to full force. So we completed that. We was wanting to have ABC trainings. That's the, people over us, the committees over us, statewide. This is a worldwide committee. And they have trainings for officials, MMA, boxing, whatever you do. They've got training and certified officials. Mississippi has not had a training, and I can tell you for sure 19 years. Because the last one that was done, I personally did it for the officials that I overseen in North Mississippi for boxing. I called them and set it up for us down there. Without this certification or this training, you should not even be allowed to officiate a fight of any type. I don't care where you're from, what state. And we've actually had fighters that would complain, well, these guys not ABC certified, but they've been doing it for the last 10 years. So we had it. We had our first one last weekend, MMA training, that went, I don't know how to explain it. It just went so great. I mean, we had so much participation. And when you have a referee that's been doing this for 10 years, y'all would have to know him, but he knows everything. And when he comes in there and tells you that he came in there with an attitude, that he could not be taught nothing. And when he left, the last thing out of his mouth was how wrong I was. And that's the part that we're trying to get back into Mississippi, because that's the only way we're gonna get the bigger show, is to have qualified officials. When I was officiating in Mississippi, I was ABC certified, but I was also certified by all the world title organizations too. And that's what I want my people to do. And we got boxing. It's going to be our next training. Boxing, we're going to have that. It'll be later on this year, but we're going to have that training and certification. Now, there is one thing, and I'm just letting y'all know what we're working on. We are trying to get the bond per show. It's like $5,000. And you look at other states, they way up there, 15, 20, 25,000. And then people say, why are they so high? 5,000 will not cover a show. So if that promoter runs out that back door and hauls tail, and nobody gets paid, that 5,000 ain't going nowhere. And the reason I know it for a fact, because I've got working on one now that I'm finna to, that I've got the okay to, that they gonna pay the bond out, because I had a guy do that. He messed over a trainer, and so I had to go after the bond to get his money. So I went after it and got it. But these bonds at 5,000, and that's honesty, your officials alone are gonna be around $1,500–1,600 per fight. That's just for your ring official. You're not counting your ambulance service, your doctor that has to be there, and anything else you want to throw in there, that they do themselves and have to pay for.
You think those numbers you mentioned, those are at the expenses?
Yes.
To have those officials in place?
Yes, and that's the reason I'm asking for the 15, or gonna ask for 15,000 to 20,000. Cause that's gonna pretty much guarantee, unless you're looking at a big world title fight, it's gonna cover it. But now, if we had a big world title fight, that's not even gonna cover one of the fighters' purses. And that's what it's for, is to cover, make sure the fighters get paid. Trainers, everybody that's supposed to get their money gets it, including the state. Cause I can file it, if they don't pay me, I can file it, get my money. And, that's something that's not been going on in Mississippi until we took over last year, well, 2 years ago. We took over and we started that bond back, because people have been running out.
Let's maybe ask a question. I hate to interrupt, but the bonding authority, is that covered or regulated by statute?
Yes,
You would need legislative approval to?
yes,
use the bond?
yes.
And how long has the $5,000, how long has that been law?
A long time. It's way overdue to be corrected. And I believe, when we show them what other states do, that's gonna help raise it. Cause it's not doing them but helping us. The bond don't cost them, and it's like I told them, you can get this bond or whatever you get for, it's good for the whole year, for however many shows you wanna do in Mississippi, you can do it. You don't have to buy another one. But if I have to go after it one time, then be lucky if you get another show, but if you do, it'll be under some highly stipulated source. Our goal is not to break a promoter, but to take care of the safety of these fighters. I want to make sure these fighters are getting what they're supposed to get. But because some of these promoters are messing over fighters, money-wise. They're going to be honest with you. And they all have to go, they're supposed to be under contract when they do a fight. Some of them don't do a contract. And then they get messed out of money, and it's nothing I can legally do to help them. So I'm making sure, if nothing else, I'm getting a $5,000 bond now, but I'm making everybody sign the contract, and I have to have it in my hands within 4 days of it being signed. That way I have the contract when I go to wait. But, and that's really our goal, is to bring the fight game back to Mississippi. And that's pretty much what I got, other than Denise said. I'm gonna let you have it now. I'm done about all I can do.
I will say that the Athletic Commission has really, really stepped up its game since Randy's been there. We represented this commission years ago and said we weren't going to represent him anymore. And then when he came in, we said, okay, we'll come back, because of the work he's done. There were years that there were no fights. And so he's done a great job of promoting and getting the information back. But what I want to talk a little bit about is the budget. The budget has been the same, $139,000, which is very, very small budget. And one of our issues is the salary line item, and I want to talk about that for a minute. Randy, as the commissioner, receives a $40,000 quote salary, but it's not a state personnel board salary. It's not a position. It's not included in the head count. It's not included in the salary target. But he, and the only thing he gets from that is his Social Security is matched. So that's another $3,000. He doesn't get any health insurance, no life insurance or anything like that. So he should not be considered in the salary line item. For the first time in 12 years, we now have an employee, and that's Michael Callahan. He was hired January 1st, and so we're experiencing some issues because this is the first time we've had an employee. I won't go into all of those procedural issues, but I do want to tell you it's going to change our salary target, because the way the target is, the promoters or the commissioners get the per diem every time they go to a fight. And so we had 65,000 showing in the salary line item. That was for the vacant position plus the per diem. But actually, that's causing us some issues now, because that really should go to Michael's salary. And so the way I presented the budget was to show you that the salary expense, although it's not really truly salary expense, is $99,789. So 43,000 of that is really a contractual expense. But the way the state accounting system works, it's hitting salaries. So there's some work to be done to get that straight. But that, just to give you an idea of where the budget is, I just wanted you to know what the employee costs were, whether it's contractual or salary. We originally had asked for $15,000 in travel. There's a lot of travel that goes on because a lot of the fights are on the coast, because that's where the venues are. So there's a lot of back and forth. We have noticed that the number of events has also projected to be increased by 20% from one year to the next. And so that's going to increase our cost. And then on top of that, the DFA has raised the daily meal limit, and the mileage limit just went up. So we're asking to increase the original budget by another $5,000 just for travel. Other thing we're going to ask for that we're having a hard time is, now that we have an employee, this agency has never had an office space. The prior, and I'm not exactly sure where Randy is operating out of.
Back in my house.
Yeah, he's out of his house. The former commissioner worked out of a storage unit in Byram. So they've asked to have an office space inside of a state-owned building. All they need is one little spot, but we have had no luck getting that. There's a lot of moving parts in state agencies. So any help y'all can give us, we would like it, but
Yeah,
they don't
please.
have the money to go out for a lease. So there's really nothing we can do. We really need to be in state-owned space. So because we have this new salaried position and we need money in travel, we tried to look at where we were in the budget and how much money we're collecting. So last year, he told you he had 32 events. We averaged, some of those events bring in $10,000. Some of them only bring in 500. So we did an average, and so his average last year was $2,000 an event. This year with 40 events, the average, because there's so many more whatever those initials are, more of those type of events, that we expect that revenue from events will double. It will go from 60,000 to 120,000. Yeah, that's what Randy said. That's what we're shooting for, and we should
Definitely what we're shooting for.
So we shouldn't have any problem doing that. So what we're asking for is, because we need a little bit more money in the salaries and we need more money in travel, we figured out we could probably take a little out of contractual, a little out of commodities, and some out of equipment, just to kind of make up some of the difference. But we would like our appropriation to be $167,573. That's basically what we have. I know we're running short, so I just wanted to see if y'all have any questions for us.
Are there any questions for Emma?
You want tickets for a fight?
Do you all have a bill that's working on changing that bond amount?
Yeah, Sarah Mann at the district attorney's office. These are attorneys.
Has a senator or a House member filed a bill for that?
Oh, no, not yet.
Okay.
And you all do plan to make contact with someone, House or Senate?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's the guarantee, I can tell you now. That has to be done to protect everybody. So we gotta get to it. And I would like to just explain something. I know, we're up here asking for more money, but these people that come to these shows, these inspectors and people like that we have to, pay. If you've ever watched professional boxing or MMA on TV, you always notice there's somebody standing to the side of the ring where the cornermen are. Those are inspectors. When them inspectors enter that building, they stay in the back with the fighters from the time they get there, to the time they get to the ring, to the time they get back to the dressing room. They are always in the sights, and we have to have 4 or 5 there. And the bigger show you have, the more inspectors you're gonna have to have. But they're supposed to walk them to the ring. They gotta watch them glove, wrap hands, and no disrespect, but they can't even go to the restroom without an inspector. And we've actually got 2, 3 female inspectors on our staff because we have female fighters. And we keep them separate, from the guys, but just to let y'all know kind of what, a lot of this is for. We're trying to take care of
$20,000
inspectors. Yeah.
budgeted for that.
How much revenue do y'all expect to bring in this year? Y'all have estimates, on that?
Last year.
Yeah.
The last year, the revenue from events, permits, and they also have, license tags, they brought in right at 97,000. We're expecting to have at least another 60,000. It's right there. So we're anticipating considerably more. And his goal is to double that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to make sure that whatever the revenue was every year covers the expenses. So, y'all could just get us how much the revenue is estimated now.
This year so far, this is, just now in February, we've already sold 145 combative sports license for boxing and MMA and trainers, and I think we've got 6 promoters already got their license, and we have a total right now on the books of 22 shows already guaranteed. And then maybe that's the reason I set my goal at 40, because I think I can get the rest one way or the other. But, none of us are here. We want this to work. I've been in this sport all my life since I was 10, and I'm not being ugly against nobody, but the last 19 years has been from the Mississippi's on the bottom. I'm not gonna lie to none of you. Everybody talks about Mississippi. Go to Mississippi, you do anything you want. We're not on the bottom no more. And we've had office 2 years, and we're not on the bottom. We done moved up real high, and I'm planning on getting back to the top. That's my goal.
If I may say this, go off this point. I actually went to the ABC conference. Go get my boxing referee and judging certification. And this is not the point. I stood up I could get that. Now, I would like to think by the end of it, I think we've made great strides improving our team, but we've still got a ways to go.
I'm gonna do it.
Just wanted to clarify that your FY 25 request, you are asking for an additional head count? So the agency will have 2?
No.
Or just additional salary funding
I
source?
just didn't know how to put where the commissioner's money needed to be. It's showing now in salaries. but it doesn't need to be in salaries. So that's just how much is in employee cost. But, if you take, the salary number actually needs to be 56,726. That would get me my per diems and Michael's salary. Does that make sense? And so Randy's, as the commissioner, is 4306 of that dollar amount.
Thank you, and welcome, Mr. Callahan. Congratulations on your position. I have one final question, and how long have you all been searching for office?
2 years? No, I'm kidding. It's been well, it was last year. I mean, it's been a long time. But then, you know, you had the flood at the Wolfen building, so that kind of pushes everything out. But it just seems like every time I call, and I don't like to aggravate people. But every time I call, I may get a call back, but most of the time, no. And, if I catch them, I catch them, but, you know, they just keep saying there's nothing available. And I've heard through, you know, just heard people talking that there may be one here or there open, and I would question it, but nothing ever comes of it. And we don't need nothing. We don't need nothing this big. We just need something small enough. We can make 3 or 4 people in if we need to, you know, and have an office in Jackson. The senators, not all of them, but the ones that have, actually said something, mainly the coach, we need an office in Jackson. They want it. It's like I tell them, so give me an office, you know.
We'll do what we can. Are there any other questions? Thank you. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I thank y'all for having us here. Appreciate it very much. And I hope all y'all have a great day.
You did the same. Barber examiners are next.
I'm trying to get my head wrapped around the next one.
Are you ready? The next agency on our agenda today is the Board of Barber Examiners. And I failed to do this at the beginning of the previous hearing, but we'd like everyone to just kind of go around the table and introduce themselves. Especially for our newest senator, Senator Jackson, to make sure that he can put names with faces. We'll start with you, sir.
I'm Mike Cothran, President of the Board of Barber Examiners and from Carthage.
I'm Angela Welch. I'm the interim executive director for Mr. Barber Board.
I'm Denise DeRosa, Cornerstone.
We'll do the same here across the front. Angela Turner, Board Subcommittee Chair. Y'all have the floor.
We are obviously here today about our budget. We've had some really good progress this year with the board. We've implemented some data tracking system, with data links. We haven't got it completed yet, but we're getting real close. We are really finding, since I've only been on the board a couple of years, we're finding,
Hold on just a moment, sir. Can you pull your microphone closer? We're live streaming and we want to make
Yes.
sure that they can hear us.
okay, is that better? Is that better? Okay, all right. So what we're doing, is we're trying to track, and get a handle on, how many barbers we got, how many shops we've got. We've done that analog for so long that getting it in a digital format is helping us, which will help us project our revenues and that sort of thing. And at this point, we'll let these ladies take over, so.
Mike mentioned, this agency has gone through some transition.
You need you to speak a little louder,
Okay.
please. I don't think let's get this, because I don't think these are actually,
Yeah, I was having trouble earlier.
amplifying in the room. Is that correct?
They're not working.
So this is,
It was just
so
for
we
that.
would need to amplify our
Oh,
voices for
gotcha.
us, and then we
Okay.
want to make sure that we can be heard.
Okay. So this board has gone through a lot of transition in the last year. In July, I believe it was, they hired Jay Barr, who is an executive director on several of the boards, to come in and just do some operational review. During that time, they've looked at their rules, their regulations, their office procedures, their management structure, their staffing structure, have taken a lot of things that they need to do to change those rules and regulations, and have started to make some changes inside of the operation. One of the things that they realized, and they probably have realized this for a while, is that their staffing, they have 7 headcount in the appropriation. Of that 7, 4 of those people are part-time, and the part-time workers only work 15 hours a week at the most. Because they're not 20-hour employees, they can't get any of the health benefits, life, retirement, any kind of insurance or benefits at all. These employees make so little that if you annualize their salary, it would only be $17,000. So very, very hard to get anybody to come in and work. So one of the things that the management consultant companies said is, let's take them off of employment and let's actually pay per inspection and hire some contract workers or independent contractors to do that. So they've got independent contractors making $40 an inspection and getting their mileage, and so that's really helped. One of the things that happened was that all of the money was up in salaries. So they approached the legislative leadership in the end of '23 and got $30,000 to be moved from their salary line item into the contractual line item. That did not happen until May, so it didn't give them a whole lot of leeway. So they immediately decided to go ahead and start with their data links project because the programmer could start working. So they got to use some of that money in the end of '23. Still had this problem in the current year, and so the legislative leadership here said that they could move $80,000 out of their salary line item into the contractual line item, and that occurred in January. So that gave us some leeway to keep doing what seems to be working more, to get that database system up and running so they can track these barbershops, track their licenses, know who's being inspected. It helps them to increase their fees, and it also will help them increase their fines. So there's a lot of work done. So their budget request says, let's not ask for the 7 headcount again. Let's keep it at a 4 headcount. And let me just give you a caveat first. There's a lot of talk in the session this year about merging this board with the cosmetology board, but what we decided to do based on what the Legislative Budget Office told us was to go ahead and present the budget as if we're a standalone agency. And then if something happens and they are merged, then we would come back for a different appropriation. So this appropriation is based on what the Barber Board needs for '25. So what they're asking for is to have these 4 positions. That would give them an executive director. It would give them 2 administrative type people and then a part-time investigator. the part-time investigator they wanted to keep, even though it's a part-time, so that they would have somebody who was an employee who could oversee the contractors and make sure that they're going where they need to go. So that was their staffing request. I do want to point out that the employees of this board right now, there's only two. One of the inspectors on military leave, and the executive director left at the end of September. And that's when Cornerstone came in to help them with their budget and their accounting, because the executive director had done all of that in the past. So this is something that Cornerstone may not keep this if they get a better, another executive director. What I want to point out is when she left, that left two employees, and the highest paid employee makes less than $29,000. The average state employee makes $43,000. So salaries are very, very low in this agency. So we're asking for the salary line to still be $190,925, and that was what the original request was. That includes some progression, and that was what the base was. So we're asking for that to stay the same. Travel expenses in every agency have gone up, that when you move from an employment position into a contractor, then it's no longer hitting the travel line item. It actually hits your contractual line item. So we've asked for a small decrease in the travel so that it could be paid to the contractors that are actually doing the work. We have asked for $18,000 to be added to the contractual line item. And that's just to cover some of the basic expenses, because we're moving it from employment. A lot of what that we needed in 24 won't be needed in 25 because of the data links project should be completed. But we are asking for enough to cover the cost of the inspectors. And then we asked for a small increase in commodities, just $750, I think is what and that was not included in the base budget, but that was asked for based on spending in FY23 and also because of the increase in cost. So the final budget request in this agency is $350,924.
Are there any questions from analysts, LBO, members of the committee? I have one.
Okay.
Looking at your, the fee,
Our fees.
I think in your description, you mentioned that the agency was formed, was it in 1913 or
38.
38 or something? And, there you mentioned, I guess, lack of legislative support for some things that you all need. When is the last time you all increased your fee?
I think it was 1972.
And so I think let me go back and look at what I saw.
I was 6 years old at that time, so.
Yeah, that's,
Talk about that, right?
fees include $15 for a shop license, $50 for an instructor's license, $100 for a college or school, and $45 for a barber's license,
Now,
$55 for the exam.
now, the shop license, that is $15 per chair
Okay.
that you have for a barber. Now, if you just have a one-chair shop, obviously it's just 15. But if you had a four-chair shop, say, it would be 60. But yes, that does need to be.
And your fees, are they governed by statute?
Yes.
They are. And, have you all considered moving for authority to increase the fees this session, or is that not part of it?
Well, with the bills that are before the legislature this year, there are increases in that. So if, according to how it goes, if we remain standalone, probably wouldn't happen this year.
Understood. Are there any other questions? Senator Barnett?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question, but I guess I need to ask a question before the question. My question is, how closely related or barber school and cosmetology school?
There are some fundamental differences. One of those is, as a barber, um, we use straight razors without a guard. Okay, so we're trained to do that. Cosmetology is not trained to do that. We also, and cosmetology is in the room, so if I need to be corrected, they can correct me. One thing, another thing that we do is we teach a lot of clipper work, and they don't teach as much clipper work. Some of those are overlapping services. The, but those are kind of the basic fundamentals that are not taught at cosmetology that we teach at Bar.
So other than the mechanicals that are used in these, this like your razors and your clippers, the hygiene part and all of those things are, I guess, are somewhere similar, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I asked that question, I asked it. Have there been any consideration or y'all supportive of the combination of a barber board and a cosmetology board? Because
We,
similar they are, kind of, to make sure that we can better serve everyone if there is a way, and I think maybe this would help with some of the budgeting problems that's out there if there could be a combination of those boards with members who are on the board that are people in the profession now that are working professionals to make sure that those kind of things are being taken care of.
yes, sir, that's a valid question. And we are, currently today, Ms. Clark and I have been, here, we're working on two bills, one's in the Senate, one's in the House, that we are working on to combine those boards this year. And we are hopeful that that will pass, this year. So we have a unified front to make that happen. So,
Okay.
and if that happens, we'll be back before y'all with budget.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome, Senator. Are there any other questions? Any additional comments from our presenters? Well, thank you all for being here today, and we thank you for the information that has been shared. And we will reach out if we have any additional questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe she did. I got it. I lied. I got it. Y'all need a copy?
think we're ready. Start our next hearing. We have before us the State Board of Licensure for Professional Engineers and Surveyors. And my name is Angela Turner Ford. Thank you all for being here. We'll go around the table and introduce ourselves, and then we'll allow you to do this.
Senator Juan Barnett.
My name is Kerry Harden. I'm a member of the board and currently vice president of board of administration. I'm Joe Lauderdale. A couple of you folks, good folks. I'm secretary treasurer.
Denise DeRosa with Cornerstone.
Thank you, and we are live streaming, and so we want to make sure that when we are speaking, that we have the microphone pulled close to us, and that your green light is on. So you all have the floor.
I know your time is valuable. I'll be glad to go over some things about our board. I know this is an annual thing. But, you know, we were formed in, excuse me, get my glasses. Well, we were formed in 1938. We're tasked with policing our ranks, making sure that any engineer that does any design work, regardless structural engineer, civil engineer, mechanical, any of that, that they're fully capable, have the proper credentials, which is education, experience, and examination. So we have rules that the state has put together and to ensure that we have the backing of the state when we make decisions on who's capable of being a professional engineer and practicing in our state or who isn't. So, and we've done, we work real hard to ensure that that's stays like that. And you know, we don't have buildings falling down here. So, and other things. Usually we have some good engineers that are licensed in our state that do the work. And, but anyhow, we have a pretty lean staff, you know, with people. We have usually 5 or 6 people on the staff, and we handle a lot of work. Renewals, the legislature, peer committee, we met with the peer committee a couple of years ago on ways to streamline and improve things. And they went with, they asked us to consider biannual licensing. Every, you know, up till now, it's been an annual renewal, and where you submit your professional development hours, which are required to maintain your license. We have all that that's submitted when you reapply for your license annually. We've moved now in the process. This is our first year. We've moved to doing it every 2 years. So a little transition there from all the years of doing it annually. But the staff has done a fantastic job of handling this. We do educational grants. I'm not following really anything in particular. Every other year, we get with the engineering and colleges in the Mississippi and colleges, junior colleges that are community colleges that are into surveying, which is real important. Value of land is very utmost importance, and we try to give them a chance to have equipment that otherwise they couldn't afford. So we have a whole grant process that we've done. I think we've done three processes, grant things every other year, 3 times. And it's been very, very successful. The colleges, community colleges really appreciate it, and it benefits the profession. You know, you gotta help give back, you know, help them see where the weaknesses are. And, because a lot of times it's just classroom stuff that you get, and equipment is so vital, especially in surveying and in the engineering science. It's real important to have that. Let's see. You wanna add some more to that?
I think we're ready
to
answer questions.
If
You want
y'all,
me to talk
yeah,
about the
if you
budget?
have any questions, Mr. Brissette, talk about the budget.
Originally, in August, when we came and submitted our budget, we had asked for an increase in the salaries. The Legislative Budget Office's base salary said, no, we want to keep you at level funding. Since we submitted that budget, the executive director is no longer employed at the agency, and that now we have several different vacant positions because of the promotions from within. And so we've done an analysis of that salary, and we think we can live in the same appropriation as we had in '24. So we're saying that we'll accept the base recommendation on salaries. Have you heard that today? Ever? So we feel like we're comfortable there. That will still give us room to promote the staff with some progression money. But we don't need to ask for the additional money because of the structure changes. Some of those long tenured employees, when they leave, you can hire at the level. So we think we're in good shape on the salaries.
May I ask a question? So are you saying, because I think in your narrative, you did mention requiring an additional 35,000. So you're saying that that position has changed? Or?
Yeah, in today's narrative, we've changed it. Yeah, we originally did ask for, we had changed some positions last year, but with the retirement of our executive director, then that salary is going to be reduced, and then we'll be able to reduce some of the other salaries and then still promote from within. So we can live with the level funding from last year. So that number stays at the 387 instead of the original. Some things that we would like to just, as we've analyzed everything, that we feel like we're okay in our travel. We had asked for originally another 48,822 in contractual, and that was taken out of the base. We would like to keep that for a couple of reasons. The board has really thought that they would do some scanning, some document digitizing, and so that would take staffing to do that. They also have they want to keep that, what we originally requested, that 48,000. We're asking for that to be added back from the base. And then, as Mr. Lauderdale talked about, they do these grants every 2 years. And so every other year we come before you and ask for an appropriation for grants. This is the year 25 that we would like to give those grants. In 23, they awarded $364,090 in grants. They went to 4 different institutions. And it's interesting because they talked about, they thought about doing this as an annual grant basis, but when they do that, they don't have as much money to give away, and so you can only give small pieces of equipment. But when they can do it every other year, the universities and community colleges will put in a proposal, a request for proposal for the grant money, and they may say, hey, I want this $100,000 piece of equipment that Mississippi State won't buy for me, but I need it for this engineering program. And so that put in that request for proposal, then the board meets and decides who gets those grants, and they get some very nice pieces of equipment that just help the universities. And so this is the year 25, and they would like to ask for $400,000 because they do have the revenue to support that. But that's really the only other request that they would like to add back to the base.
Are there any questions?
Yes, yes, we're authorized five. They just met today in the board meeting, so, that's what I was trying to think. They've promoted from within into the executive director position. So, and then they have one customer service that, that's filled. They are in the process of recruiting for their investigator. And then because they've promoted from within, their PR communications person is now gonna be vacant. And then they've had a vacancy on the, other licensing communications person. I mean,
Am I understanding you to say that you have 3 vacancies and 2 filled now?
correct, as of today.
All right.
So, but, they're in the process of recruiting for that. Matter of fact, at that board meeting, they were wondering if they should ask for another headcount. So let's wait a year because we have these vacancies. But they're in the process of recruiting.
Are there any other questions? Stanford, members of the committee? Thank you. We appreciate the information today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Is that very good?
Take that. Y'all have to interview every special fund agency. Pretty much. Thank y'all very much. Good for us too to answer any questions. Thank you. Have a good day.
We'll begin our next hearing with Mississippi State Board of Optometry. My name is Angela Turner Ford. We are streaming live, and we'll first allow our members attending the committee to introduce ourselves, and then we'll hear from you.
Beverly Limbaugh, Executive Director of Board of Optometry.
We may have had someone to join us online. So I hate to be redundant, but we just never. So please, you all have the
Thank you. Do you want to just, basically, we had, the legislative authority last year to get an office and an assistant. We have had the Board of Optometry in my home for 22 years. And, it took us a while to find some property. There was no state property, but we have found somewhere to lease, and, we have found an assistant also. So we are very excited about the changes. We just had some expansion of our scope for optometry and normal growth, and it's required us to have a facility where we can do testing and of new applicants, new graduates, and it's kind of gotten to be a lot for me by myself. So we're looking forward to these changes. I call them improvements. So, that's what we need.
freeing the space from your house. Yes, ma'am. Me.
She's very, very excited to be out of the house. And like she said, they do have nice office spaces. They should be, the board will meet there for the first time this month. Probably will meet without their furniture because the furniture is still on its way. But they have made great strides.
Where are y'all located now?
At the time, it's in my home.
But now.
And out at the reservoir, where's the office?
Or your new office.
Oh, it's at the end of fortification. It is at 5 Old River Place. It's by the levee. And, the Board of Accountants, is right across from us. And I believe that, there's a vacancy upstairs that the, social worker board's looking at, I believe. It's,
She had to go through the full RFP process, which has taken some time, but
Right.
it is now in there. So what we had asked for in the budget originally was to take some of that contractual money that had been set aside for the relocation of the office and the furniture. And, it is not going to be needed into 25, but we did not put the full lease into our 24 budget because we knew we wouldn't be in there the whole year. So we really are just reallocating some of those expenses so that we do have a full year of lease. And so the Legislative Budget Office did not recommend that to keep the money into the contractual, and we're just asking for that back. And we're also asking for a 5% pay increase for Beverly. And we want to make sure that we do have enough money in the contractual line item. Although she said they're hiring somebody, it's not in a position, it's actually in a contract. And so they are working with staffers as a temporary service and also considering hiring like a contract worker. So we do need the money in the contract line item to be restored. So the entire budget that we're asking for is the original request for $259,924.
Everything takes longer than you anticipate that it's going to take when you get ready to make plans to relocate. So,
Do we have any questions from our analysts? Betty? Sam?
I don't remember exactly, but I think, didn't we add a section in your bill that says that a certain amount is for relocation? Did we do that?
I think it was not,
Specified?
I don't think it was specified in
We had
the
a couple
appropriation.
agencies that moved last
You
year.
did that for pharmacy?
Yeah,
Yeah, pharmacy had that in their preparation. This one I do not think. was-
yeah, I just want to make sure.
It was.
I just want to make sure, because if the section's still in there, then
okay.
that
Yes, we
fund,
did.
those funds are tied to that. So we can address that later.
I'll look at that. I did not go back and look at their specific language, so I appreciate you mentioning that, and we'll look at it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, when we spoke last night, I think we talked about that might have been the case.
inside the appropriation bill, but it specifically said,
50 for the relocation, 40 for six. I really think, and we didn't use either one.
Right.
Yeah, we can look it up. I just
Thank
didn't know if you knew.
I'm sorry, this is like the 12th hearing today. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Are there any other questions, comments from you ladies?
Do I need to get that to you? Do I need to get that? Okay, all right,
Thank you so much for being here today, and we appreciate the information that's been shared.
thank you.
Thank you. Guys, gotta go back downstairs.
Okay.
Was it specific?
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We'll begin our next hearing, the Mississippi Auctioneers Commission. I'm Angela Turner Ford. Thank you for being here today.
Move on up here so we can see you. My name is Yvonne Laird, and I'm the Executive Director of the Mississippi Auctioneer Commission. We come to you today just asking for level funding. We always like to come to see you, to answer any questions that you may have. The only major difference that we've made this year is that we have had to implement the fingerprint-based background check. We have, in the past, the way that you solidify basically good moral character is you have two of your friends sign, say, I've known you for 2 years and you're a pretty good fellow. And so what happened last year is we had a firm that we licensed, and less than 3 weeks later, we found out through the auctioneer grapevine that he had 16 convictions of arson. Is that better? Okay. And so, we had to do a show cause. We went to show cause him in order to pull his license, and he was already back in jail. And so, that, and then a couple of other cases that we ran into where there were felony convictions that had to do with embezzlement. And as you'll note on the bottom of the handout, there's not but 510 active licensees in the state, but they handle, what flows through their escrow accounts is $4.5 billion a year. And that's simply a flow through to the client. So it's very, very important that they are of ethical character, and that because they are required within 5 days to turn that money around and give it back to the individual who actually own the merchandise. So we're not a very large board. We don't have any staff. We are a contract agency. I run J. Bar and Associates. We also have the Mississippi Massage Therapy Board and the Mississippi Chiropractic Examiner Board. And so we have, J. Bar and Associates has 3 employees, and we have 3 boards, so we don't come asking for any staff, any changes in travel. We simply ask that you allow us to continue our funding level of $117,000 plus a little change. We did take in approximately $147,000 last year in revenue, and our balance to date is $212,000 in the bank. So we're trying to be very frugal with what we've been given authority this week. So unless you have any questions, that's all I have.
I do have one quick question.
Okay.
I'm just looking at your, the spreadsheet here, the difference in travel from 2023 versus what you're projecting in 24, from about 3,000 up to 12. What's the basis for the difference?
Well, our budget person is Debbie Fight. She handles all that budget. Basically, that increase was just simply to take in the additional cost of additional board meetings and additional hearings. We were able to absorb in our contractual services the cost of court reporting fees and things of that nature, because we do not recoup the cost of the fees for investigations and hearings from the individual.
Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay.
Short and sweet. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you.
Yes. Come on down.
Thank y'all so much for meeting with us today. We really appreciate it. I'll start out by introducing myself. My name is Sharon Clark, and I'm the Executive Director for the State Board of Cosmetology. I was previously in this position between 2017 and 2020, and I left and went to the National Board of Cosmetology in 2020 and returned back to the board in March of 2023. So looking at our 2023 budget, MS here completed their.
There's an issue with the microphone.
Switch. Oh, it needs to be in front of me? Okay. Is that better? Okay. So, when peer completed their review of the board back in 2021, one thing that they, reviewed was that the board had a high dependence on contractual workers or contractual labor. The board has worked, very diligently to decrease the amount of contract laborers that we have in our agency and retain those positions and bring them back in-house as they should be. The State Personnel Board just approved a reclassification of a CSR one position to an accountant one position for us. It is out for open recruitment now and should close any day now. Once that position is filled, that will allow us to bring back our accounts payable in-house that we currently use Cornerstone for. Also, we had one board member that retired in 2023, but our board has worked very hard to move forward with the best practice regarding regulation. We requested in our 2025 budget request, we did request one additional staff member. This would be a dedicated staff member that would assist with our Universal Recognition of Occupational Licenses, or the UROLA Act. Since the passing of UROLA on July 1 of 2021, we have reviewed and processed approximately 1,737 applications without a dedicated person for this position. So the staff has had to just be spread thin within the office to cover that, with 82% of those applicants actually receiving a permit to work going forward. In FY23, we had 362 UROLA applications that were reviewed and processed, and we in addition to that, tested those applicants. Some of those applicants sometimes have to test multiple times before they are allowed to pass the examination, but we do try to make sure we test monthly. The original statute from 1942 for the Board of Cosmetology had the requirement that you needed to be able to read, write, and speak English. Most of these UROLA applicants that are coming in from the other states are very limited in their ability to read, write, and speak English. So this has been detrimental to them and a hardship for them because because they're used to their native language, we only had a passing rate for our UROLA Law and Sanitation exam of 57%. In addition to that, the state board does test for both practical and theory examination for our students. Theory is the written, practical is the skills examination. We tested a total of 2,064 students and 2,064 tests. And of those tests, we had a 79% passing rate on our theory examination and an 85% passing rate on our practical skills examination, which is extremely good. In prior years, the State Board of Cosmetology has held a high turnover rate. But because of SEC and you here, our turnover rate has decreased significantly due to increased salaries. While we do sometimes remain slow to fill our compliance inspector positions, it's because it is a set territory that they will be working, and the requirement by State Personnel Board is they must live in that territory if they're going to have that territory. So sometimes we have to through NeoGov, we have to go out there and post the position numerous times before we find someone who actually lives in that territory. When this happens, though, it creates another issue for our actual inspectors that are already in their position, because they're tasked with having to cover the entire state when we do have vacant positions. So we have currently 5 compliance inspector positions, plus we have our testing evaluators that are the ones who test our practical skills examinations. And then we have board members that monitor our continuing education events. And then we have the school audits that are completed. When our budget for FY24 was completed in prior years, we had multiple positions within the agency that were vacant. And 3 of those positions were these compliance inspector positions. These compliance inspector positions range in salary in travel anywhere between $24,000 and $36,000 a year, because they're on the road 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And with those positions being vacant, the board really underestimated the amount of travel money that they would need if they were at full staff. So now that we know we will be at full staff, because we have 4 of the positions filled now, with the last one that should be hired any time now. So based on that, we now have a deficit in travel money that we didn't foresee when the budget was done years before I came back. So on the sheet that you were handed, you will see on the back of the cover stock page, it has a request, and this is where we feel we are deficit for this fiscal year. We have school audits, school inspections, practical testing evaluations, and continuing education monitoring that would need to be completed between now and June. The issue here is we have $17,000 in money left in our travel budget. So I have enough money to last me to the end of February, and then my employees are not going to be able to do their jobs because I don't have the travel money for them to do the travel. And this is going to be a detrimental thing for our students, because without the money to pay the evaluators to come in and test the students, I can't test the students. And that's gonna infringe upon their testing time that they don't, because they only have 1 year to test. So we're asking for $60,000 additional money in travel money. And mind you, I know that's a lot of money to ask for, okay? And I will tell you, I've been around since 2017. Even with the gap, I still was I tried to stay familiar with what was going on with cosmetology. Cosmetology doesn't ask for deficits. And it's because we are very good stewards of state money. And we try to make sure we do everything the right way. But this budget was done at a time frame when they had an interim director who, while she is phenomenal, she wasn't familiar with the budget process and what needed to be asked for. So we're asking for $60,000 in travel. And I'm sure all of you, because I heard it discussed earlier, are aware there is a very real possibility that the 2 boards will merge with us and Barber Board. If this happens, the Barber Board is in rental property. We're in state property. So they would essentially move in with us. If this happens, we have 7 years worth of work days that have to be scanned into the system, because our retention schedule tells us we have to keep them. But we need to free up as much floor space as we can free up to bring in extra people and extra files, because they have their own files at the Barber Board. The information technology things that are listed there, over the years, the Board of Cosmetology has used different companies, but right now we use a company named Pillium, and ITS has recommended them to us. I took the time because I received an email from Pillium telling me Cosmetology Board is falling behind. You have all these end-of-life programs that you have licenses that needed to be upgraded. You have your ITS security assessment that needs to be done. And I took the time to email Brian Norwood at ITS and say, before I even asked for this money, do I really need all these things? And he said, absolutely. Yes, ma'am, you do. You have to have all those things. So I'm at a deficit for those things. And the only remaining thing is $5,000 in commodities. Years ago, in the time frame while I was gone, they had a contract worker that came to work for the board who sold fake licenses. And he ended up, and they did press charges on him, but the paper was not inventory. It didn't have an inventory tracking number on it. So if somebody picked up a stack of paper, they could take it home with them. We now have an inventory tracking number on all of our license paper. But with that inventory tracking number, that increases the cost of the paper. So we need the $5,000 in order to make sure that we remain as diligent as we can to make sure that everything we do is on the up and up. That's 24. And I will tell you, I did talk to Tracy Day earlier this morning, and I showed this all to her. And so right now, if we, on the second page you have, it has all of our current employees. On the, just on, not the cover stock page, but the other page that she gave you. It's right here. And it's a list of all of our current employees. Well, based on our current employees, we should end the year with about between $30,000 and $40,000 left in salaries. We are asking for your mercy to please move the remainder of that money towards this $94,900 and give us the difference in the deficit so that we can continue to protect the public and continue to do what the board needs to do to be effective. And the other thing at the bottom is the FY25. Here, with same thing, it was the same amount of money. It was the $95,000 when that budget was done. So we would need additional travel money to be able to get us there. And while there is a real possibility that the two boards will merge, we still want this consideration in case that doesn't happen. Under that, the salaries, if you look at that sheet that's just on regular paper that I gave you, it shows you that if all of our current positions are filled and paid for the year, we would need a total of $716,000 and some change. We were given $677,000 and some change. So we're at a shortfall of about $39,000 if we keep all of our staff, which of course that's best case scenario, and we hope to do that. The other thing was in our FY25 budget, we did ask for a Eurola compliance inspector position that would be dedicated to handling all those applications and reviewing them. So right now, we have a contract labor person who is handling that for us. And you and I both know that anytime you hire somebody on contract, you're essentially paying more for that position than you would if they were a dedicated state employee. So we are asking for that additional position. So, in a nutshell, for FY24, we really have that deficit of $94,900. And if we aren't given this money, we are essentially in trouble. I mean, that's the bottom line. We're in trouble because we can make it through the end of February. And so it not only affects our duties in doing school audits, doing inspections of facilities to make sure that they're in compliance, but also giving our students testing availability dates to make sure that they can test. And there you see, I've showed you the FY25, the short thing, but I just want to reiterate to you that the board is very hard working to make sure that we are good stewards of state money. We know how important that is to you, and we want to ensure to you that it is that much important to us. But without these funds, I'm just afraid that we cannot adequately provide the duties that are charged to the board, which to us, the number one thing is protecting the public. So I really appreciate your consideration so much.
Do you have any questions? Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have to ask this question in all fairness to the Barber Board as well. So you all are considering the merging the two boards, right?
Yes, sir. So how this came about was in previous years, there has been multiple bills for consideration to merge the two boards. over the years, both boards have been against that merger. And I believe the reason being was because they wanted to make sure that they maintained their own identity as a board. And so when I came back in March, our board met with the Cosmetology Council and met with the Barber Board. And we discussed creating our own bill that we could make sure the language was where both boards felt the language should be. And we did that. We worked on that bill for between 6 and 8 months. And when we finally finished the bill, we now have both boards that are in unison and have voted to approve that merger bill and to move forward in support of it.
I heard you say that even if they merged, then would it be everyone from both boards would still be part of?
That would be up to the governor. So the board, however many board members is set in the bill, the governor will have X amount of time, I believe it's to September 1, to appoint new board members for that board. Of course, it could be the existing board members that we have, or it could be a whole new board.
Well, I'm just asking, I guess the reason for asking the question, I think, if we merge the two boards in considerations of trying to save the two boards, especially when it comes to appropriations, then I guess my question is, if to do this, we're hypothetically speaking right now, there's 15 members on both boards combined. Why would we still need 15 members on a combined board if you have 15 members between the two boards now? Why would we still need 15 members on the combined board to make this?
Actually, we have 5 members.
Well, I was just speaking, just,
So right now, we have 5 members on each board. The new bill would allow for a 7-member board. It would be equal distribution between the barber board and the cosmetology board with 3 members each, and then 1 state health officer.
one member from the State Health Department.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Welcome, Senator. You have a question, Senator Jackson? Senator Delano, no question? Sanford?
So, I'm just trying to, looking at y'all's spending authority and how much y'all have a lump sum budget, correct?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
are you gonna spend all the funds in contractual services?
At this time, we do have contracts right now. We have contracts with our accounting, with Cornerstone. And then we also have a contract for like postage, our postage meter, that kind of stuff, our copier. And then we have through our computer software. But we have, I will be brutally honest with you. There are large contracts that have been written over the last couple of years that the agency has relied very highly on these contracts to run the agencies. And we are working very hard and have worked very hard to move away from that scenario, because we want our agency to be able to be run by state employees, not people from staffers. And so we've worked very hard to do away with that, with the contract workers from staffers. We had contracted one time with Wabon Laird at J-Bar, and we no longer use her. We are scaling back what we use with Cornerstone. We're trying to pull pieces back in-house. We've done everything that we feel is in the best interest of the board to try to get that back. But our issue is this budget was done for FY24 before I came back in March of last year. So we're just now seeing the issues that we have and trying to fill the gap, so to speak. But as I told you, I understand how bad this is. I truly do. I understand when someone comes to you with a deficit, that's horrible. And I promise you, if I had a way to get around it, I wouldn't be asking you for it. But we really, because it's so important to us that we fulfill what the legislature has asked us to do. And without this money, I'm just afraid that we're not going to be able to fulfill our duties.
Senator Delano.
Sharon, thank you. Sorry that I came in a little bit late, Madam Chair. I wanted to get up here because since I've worked with you on this combination bill for a number of years, and I've worked with your budget for a number of years as well. I do have a question, and I've asked this of everybody that we've had, that have come before us on budget. Last year, we gave some monies that were available for salary progressions. And it was close to 3%, I believe is what we gave. And did they receive, and Corbin, I'm looking at you on this, did they receive 3% of that or of their special fund authority for salaries? And the question that I have is, how was that money spent? Is it across the board, or did you use some other type of?
If salary progressions were given before I came back in March of 23, because we have not increased any salaries.
It was done after that. It was done in this current fiscal year.
We have not, that may be the $30-something thousand that we have left at the end of the fiscal year, because we have not given progressions out.
Okay.
And I didn't request any progressions for 25.
Yeah, I think this was given by the legislature across the board for all agencies. And most of it was stuck at 3%. Now that went for increase in insurance, increase in PERS, and some other things that kind of came up to that 3%. But we had language that was given to every agency that basically said, you can do what you need to do with that money, but that's what it was intended for. So I'll clarify with you with that after this hearing.
I
Then,
can say that up until December, Cornerstone was handling our payroll and travel for us, and we pulled that back into house effective January 1. But all the position salaries were already where they were when that happened.
okay, great. Thank you. Madam Chair, I appreciate your indulgence.
Most welcome. Ms. Clark, did you say Cornerstone was handling payroll and travel up to December of 2023?
Yes, ma'am. We pulled travel and payroll back in-house as of January 1. And then once this accountant position is filled, that person will be trained, and then we will bring the accounts payable back in-house.
A couple of questions that I have, looking at I would say your budget spreadsheet. Salaries, wages, and fringe benefits, actual expense June 30, 2023, $319,373 versus what's estimated for June 30, 2024, $664,911. What's the difference between those two?
So I would just tell you that what I did, because I keep a spreadsheet that has all my positions listed and what their current salaries are. When I talked to Tracy this morning, Tracy looked at the spreadsheet with me and she said that I may have my fringe calculated wrong on here. So that number may be skewed just a hair, but what I went strictly off of the calculation of what I estimate the salaries to be plus the fringe, and then $13,000 in per diem for my board members and $650 in workman's comp, which I came up with $716,000 and some change. And so, while of course there may be times when we don't have vacant positions, I always feel more comfortable knowing that if we don't, my money's there. That's how I try to look at it. Optimistic.
The next question I have is, I think you said that you all are occupying state space,
Yes, ma'am.
but I do see a number for rent.
That's rent we pay to DFA. We're
And-
in the Robert E. Lee building.
Okay, and then the last question that I have is your out-of-state travel. Is it required that your members of the board attend these out-of-state conferences to be certified? Or, well, let me ask you
Well-
this question. Are there any opportunities in-state for them to
Yes,
acquire these
ma'am. Yes,
CEU
ma'am.
units?
So how the continuing education events work is in order to be a master licensee or an instructor licensee, you have to do continuing education events. While we sometimes have events where we know that that event can just provide a certificate to us and we can verify through them that that person actually attended that event. We do, most of the larger hair shows offer you where you're just walking around the entire time. It's a big floor show. So what we have to do is we have to have those licensees sign in and sign out with us in order to get those hours. So we don't have a lot of out-of-state shows. We have basically 2 a year, really. And then we have our National Interstate Council for State Boards of Cosmetology conference, and that's once a year. And that is our testing administrator. That's who we purchase our tests from. And so we go to that conference every year for best case practices of what is happening in our field. And it also gives us additional training and additional opportunities to meet with other states to see what's going on in their state, to find out what legislation they have, that kind of thing.
My last question is, your fees. When is the last time you all had an adjustment?
It was probably the 70s, but I right now, the big thing with most people is make it easier for people to get a license. That's the thing. Make it more accessible, make it easier for people to get a license. So every time we have brought up an increase in fees, there's always been something negative said about that because they want to make it easier for people to come work here, not harder. So we agree that the fees need to be raised. We would be more than happy for our fees to be raised. But I will tell you that we are the field inspectors that we have are very excellent employees. They go in, they inspect salons, they make sure everyone is compliant with sanitation. And if you are not, you're given a violation. One of the things that we've asked for if the two boards merge, or even if the two boards don't merge, we've asked for a new change to our statute for our sunset bill that allows for us to go in when we do an inspection and give them a specific grade. So we go into your salon just like the Department of Health. If we go into your salon and it's clean, you're getting an inspection that's an A. But if we go in and it's dirty or you have unlicensed workers, you're getting a C, which me personally, I got a C. I'd be calling the state board office and saying, I got a C, I want to be re-inspected, so I'm gonna clean my salon up. So then we come behind them, come back, do that re-inspection, and hopefully their grade gets better. But those re-inspections, every one is $35. So that's gonna increase our revenue by just holding people's feet to the fire to make sure that they're remaining in compliance.
Sanford?
So, just looking at y'all's fees or y'all's special funds, y'all, as of December of 2023, y'all have $3.1 million in cash. So y'all could run the board for 3 years without even charging one fine or fee or anything.
Right.
So, also looking at, your salaries, y'all have $72,000 in, compliance funds, as of January. So, I mean, have y'all hired anybody since?
Yes, sir. We have one position that the recruitment just closed, that we should interview in the next probably week to 2 weeks. And the other one is on NeoGov now, through State Personnel Board, waiting to close so we can interview for that position. That's the accountant position.
So with those two people though, are their combined salaries and fringe $72,000?
Yes, sir.
So
One is 31,111 and one is 40,286.
Looking at your travel, if you continue to travel, just estimate it out. I think y'all spent $77,000 as of today. So that annualizes $133,000. So you'd only, compared to the budget, you'd only need $38,000.
Well, what I did was I ran my travel numbers through December, and at December I was right at 75,000 based on everybody. That was evaluators, everybody. And then, but I want to make you understand though is that those numbers fluctuate. There's no, it's inspector. If an inspector covers a larger territory or has to do more inspections, because like we're coming up on the summer months, okay? And what we tell our inspectors is always make sure in the winter months you inspect closest to your home, because the weather is bad, the roads are going to be bad. So in the summer months, then you're going the furthest away in your territory to do inspections, because you don't have that bad weather option. So we know our expenses are going to go up travel-wise for just our inspectors alone.
And then I think y'all still have another $151,000 just based on how much you spent today, for the rest of the year. So is that, I know that there's some funds that are needed for current contracts, but I think you still have some wiggle room in there for some of these costs.
And I think that if there was a way that the 30,000 left over that was in salaries could be moved back to the other budget, then we would only really need that additional shortfall for about 40,000. Or, excuse me, 60,000.
Senator Delano?
Madam Chair, you're running behind on hearings, or, because I don't want to take up any more of your time. I appreciate you. Okay. This is really more of a statement, for us to consider. We have done a lot to this board in trying to open up or remove some impediments for people to be able to practice in the state. We've also have reciprocal agreements with other states as well. And this summer I had an issue where I had a young lady who had just completed her classes, but needed to get a test or take a practical exam. And she's like, I'm on the list, but there's like 40 or 50 people ahead of me on the list, and we're trying to get them out. And I called and I found out that there was a unique situation, and I want to speak to it just for 1 second. But we had people that were practicing in Mississippi who may have had or may have a residency in Tennessee, who were unable to take a test in Tennessee because their training facility had burned to the ground. So they were not able to do any test whatsoever. But since we had a reciprocal agreement with Tennessee, we had an influx of people coming in to Mississippi to take a test. And if I remember correctly, we are not able, you do not have the authority to charge a rate different or to treat in-state or out-of-state any differently under or under their authorizing legislation. Because I thought, hey, you should test Mississippians first. If there's a list, because a lot of people were not able to practice because they weren't able to get this test done. So,
And when we budget based on the number of students. We know within Mississippi, those test dates that would have been for the Mississippi students, and then we don't have the additional funds to schedule new test dates for students.
yeah, so that was an unintended consequence of an action that we took, and it took me a while to wrap my head around it. And, you know, of course, I was looking for an answer of, yes, she can come take the test next week. But then once I understood it, I was like, okay, I'll take ownership and part of that. But that is something that I wanted to bring to your attention. I thought that was a unique circumstance that may have caused an increase in spending that was not accounted for when we did this budget hearing last year. But thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. And so what I would ask is, in light of what has been identified as an unintended consequence, is there a proposed legislative solution?
I'd love to work with you on that. I did author, I think there's 3 or 4 bills that are going to be floating around. That is the consolidation bill, but I've worked with them closely. I know there's another bill from Peer that hopefully we're going to be able to make sure everything is in line. However that moves forward, I'm going to keep track of it. I think I know where you sit. Okay, so I'll make sure we stay in touch on that. And I don't know if we charge out of state more for licensing or what the solution there is. But if you're only able to use what's practically reasonable data from the state of Mississippi as far as the number of students going through to set the number of classes or seats that you have for exams, and then you have out-of-state people come in and do that, it could preempt Mississippians from being able to get that, which would incur additional costs that they may or may not have the authority to do through escalations.
Thank you. Well, I look forward to working with you, and anything that we can do to help y'all get past the hurdle, just let us know. Thank you, Ms. Clark. We appreciate your time today.
Hello, how you doing? Hello. Thank you. Okay, I got you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Angela Turner Ford, and we will introduce ourselves, and then we will allow you to have the floor, introduce yourself, and present to us.
Hi, again, this is Tina Carter, your Legislative Budget Office Analyst.
You have the floor.
All right. Thank you all for having me here today. I'm Matthew Raff. I am a board member of the Board of Registration for Foresters. I'm actually the vice chair. The chairman was actually in Washington tending to an engagement there, so he asked me to fill in his place. I've been on the board since 2022. Our mission is, we're here to basically protect the general public and the forestry resources of our state. And the way we do that is we regulate the practice of forestry by requiring people who practice forestry be registered and have a license. And so our board, we're in charge of the one for people to initially get a license, be registered, and that's by having the proper education and passing the examination that we proctor. And then every 2 years, we have to have a continued education of over 16 hours, one of those hours being ethics. And then our board, we oversee that as well. And then also complaints that are filed for people that aren't practicing forestry with a license. Our fee structure is, we're self-sustained, and our income is our fees, our registration fees. We charge $100 to re-register every 2 years. And so our income's approximately $110,000 every 2 years. The board does not have any full-time employees. Our employees is contract services. We have like an executive secretary. It's actually considered a part-time position, and it's paid through contract. She's a contractor. The budget that we submitted in August, I believe that there was one increase on the budget it was $18,626. This was an increase for basically data processing to buy into a new program for our tech program for online registry. So at the time in August, that was our only increase request. Since August, we had a change, so we were requesting another reauthorization of spending. And our part-time employee, Debbie Showles, told us that she would be retiring after we had submitted the budget. And so she has recommended, she's been doing this for 14 years, and she's got her system down. So it doesn't require her as many hours as she feels like a new person coming in it will take to learn the ropes. So she feels like we're gonna have to pay more for that contractual services for a new employee. And so she's estimated that to be a $10,000 increase. So our contractual services would increase by 10,000 from 20,000 to 30. And in turn, I think the other number that would change would be what was in the treasury year ending 2025 was estimated at $30,180. That would be reduced to $20,180. And I believe that is really all the requests that I have addressed. And I'm open for any questions.
Are there any questions? Hearing none. Thank you for your presentation.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. I guess I explained myself, okay. Thank you. Thank y'all very much.
Social workers, marriage, family therapists. Are we ready? Good afternoon. My name is Angela Turner Ford. Thank you for being here today. We will allow members at the table here to introduce themselves, and then we will give you the same opportunity and you may present.
With the legislative budget on?
You have the floor.
Thank you for having me. My name is Erica Allen. I am the Executive Director with the Board of Examiners for Social Workers and Marriage and Family Therapists. I have been with the agency, it will be 20 years in March. However, I've only been the Executive Director for 2.5 years. Initially, when I made the little online thing to come before you, it was to make revisions to our budget because we will be moving to a new office location. However, crunching the numbers, it seems like everything was fine with what you all previously offered. Today I come before you requesting a salary adjustment for my position. In the packet that I just gave you is the letter for Senator Hobson. And also, there is a description of my work. There is a CPM, 2 forms attached in that where I just completed levels 1 through 3 of the CPM program and my resume. And I also included 2 copies of the State Personnel Board variable compensation plan for fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year that they put out for fiscal year 2024. That information can also be found on the State Personnel Board's website. With my job duties, our agency, we currently do not contract for anything. So everything required of our agency, I do, along with 2 employees. I also am the licensing officer for marriage and family therapy because the 2 employees that I have, they're actually fairly new. And so one of them has been with me for 2 years. The other one has only been with us for about 7 months. So when State Personnel Board did their SEC squared position increase and reclassification, there was none in it for executive directors. However, inside of the compensation plan, they do mention and they have provided a fair market value across certain states. So that's pretty much it. I'm just requesting that, and the reason I'll say this, the reason why I'm coming to you all is because I've actually tried to work through my agency to get the increase. However, there have been certain issues and I've been requesting it since May. I was informed by another executive director that I should just try to come to you all and see if there was a way for me to request an increase through legislature. So.
Are there any questions from members of the committee, panelists? I have one. So what are you asking for in terms of your increase? I couldn't.
I'm sorry.
Scan it quick enough.
I'm asking for a $10,000 increase for my salary. My current salary is $51,683.13, and so I'm asking for a $10,000 increase.
I think you've covered all of the issues, and I don't believe that there are any more questions. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate the information you've provided. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. My name is Angela Turner Ford. We will allow the members sitting around the table to introduce themselves, and then we will yield the floor to you all to present.
I'm Rob Dowell.
Hold on just a moment. So for our technical reasons, first, we are streaming. And so we need you to press the button so you have a green light. And also the microphone needs to be directly in front of you.
You're gonna make me nervous.
Maybe a little closer.
Oh, my. Yeah, we're here with the Veterans Home Purchase Board. There's not a lot of changes, not a lot that we're really asking for this year. The main things are gonna be salary increases, looking to increase just, for some not appropriations. We're a special fund agency, so we don't really receive any appropriations, but just, some spending authority for salaries, and then along with our loan authority, spending authority for loans. And we're looking for basically $10 million, which is the emergency fund that we've utilized last year to just be added back. I think it was basically lowered by that same amount. And that's pretty much it. We're easy.
I'm going to make it slightly difficult. And this would be just for the benefit of Senator Jackson. Could you maybe just tell us in a few sentences what your agency does?
Oh, I'd love to.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Veterans Home Purchase Board was founded in 1936. Our first appropriation from the state was 1946. Our last appropriation from the state was in 1972. The agency was founded in 1936 basically as a agency to help veterans returning from combat or returning from serving overseas, to help them recuperate back into society. So what the agency does is basically we go out, the veteran comes to us with a house that they'd like to purchase. We purchase the house on behalf of the veteran. People like to say we're a loan company or that we're a mortgage company. We're not. We manage a trust fund for the state of Mississippi. So with that trust fund, we purchase the house on behalf of the veteran, and then the veteran pays the money back into the trust fund over a 15 or 30-year term. So it allows the veteran to get an advantageous rate over what the bank markets are. Right now, our 30-year payback is over 5.5%, 15 years at 5%. So it enables the veteran to get into a house quicker. It's really rewarding. We have we have a 6-member board. All of them are veterans. All of them have a business background, a legal background, real estate background, something that can help them make an informed decision on what veterans to take a chance on. The reward comes in because I'm a 28-year veteran myself. And the reward comes in because I know before these kids go off and they go overseas and they're deployed, they are told by their commanders to save your money because they have no expenses overseas. Save your money, come back, and you'll have a nice nest egg to buy a house. And when I see a 26-year-old, 27-year-old veteran that's been overseas 3-4 times come into the office with $75,000 in the bank to put down on a home, it's very rewarding. Nothing more rewarding than that. So I'm very honored to be in the position I'm in, to be able to help veterans basically achieve the dream that they were given before they were sent off overseas. So and we're the only state in the union that does it. If I had my way, we would spread it. Take the governor, we'd go over to Louisiana, Alabama, and we'd show them how to do it. It's one of a kind, and it's a phenomenal program. Proud to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation, and thank you for what you do. Are there any questions?
As far as the submitted request that y'all had, is it changed from what was submitted? It's the same. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and we appreciate the information provided.
Y'all can't make it that. It was harder to turn the mic on.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.